I really wanted you on. We got this now. We got this huge spy operation by the CCP going on in Cuba that first Kirby denied. Then he said, well, it's kind of there. Well, it doesn't matter. Just like the balloon, right? Kirby's a liar. Then we find out there's this massive, the Chinese have built this massive embassy in the Bahamas with these underground tunnels. This thing is a humongous multi-billion-dollar structure. What is the deal with the CCP building these things and the extent of their electronic surveillance?
Well, I think stepping back kind of the geopolitical picture, what you're looking at is the start of a new Cold War. This is no longer us jostling around the South China Sea. This is China aggressively moving into other territory, particularly into the Atlantic, which is not somewhere they've ever traditionally operated. And to your point about Kirby and the excuse making, I don't know if you saw the Washington Post editorial that just came out. It's absurd. It's like, well, we spy on China. Why shouldn't they? And so I think it's fascinating that it's gone from, well, we're not sure if they did it. Well, we think they did it. Well, it's okay if they do it. And it's a pattern of malfeasance. You look back to CFIUS cases and technology acquisitions, the Obama administration with Biden in it, Biden now constantly kowtowing to the Chinese. And I presume they're trying to balance economic interests, but it just seems like an exceptionally poor decision.
So, I mean, what are we doing about this? You've got Kirby up there lying to you. And for the people who don't know who John Kirby is, former naval officer, now the comms, chief spokesperson, I guess, for the Department of State. And he gets up. First he says, there's no problem with the balloon. It's a weather balloon. Then there was a problem with it. Then he didn't know about it. Then we did know about it, but it's no big deal. Then there's really no spy operation in Cuba. That's a rumor. Then there is, but it's not that bad. Then it's kind of bad, but he knew about it. Now he's not even addressing the deal in the Bahamas. So are we just looking the other way? What is the deal here?
I think we're just asleep at the wheel again, right? The same way we've ignored Russia after they went into Georgia that now led to Ukraine, the same way that we've ignored China for, a decade. They broke into our systems, 10 years ago now, and stole all of the security clearance applications, then proceeded to roll up networks around the world. It's like China is an adversary of ours, and for some reason we willfully seem to refuse to recognize that they are in fact in this sort of low-level conflict with us. I honestly can't account for it. It's a massive threat, and we just seem to sleep at the wheel or indifferent to it.
Could we be compromised?
I mean, that's tough to say. I think you can do a really bad job without being compromised. I think our intelligence community has demonstrated that for a good 30, 40 years now, with the number of things they've missed, whether it was the Russians going to Afghanistan, September 11th, Georgia. They don't have a stellar track record. It's part of why I'm in the private sector now, to be honest. But I think the bigger issue is understanding why we're so willing to make these trade-offs. Like, what are we gaining other than cheap consumer goods from China? I'd love to understand at least what the rationale is, even if I don't agree with it, because I honestly even struggle with that. We just look weak, ineffective, and these capabilities, this is not a balloon or a satellite going over. This is fixed. That means it captures everything all the time. What you're able to learn when you have a capability like that is exponentially better than anything you do by flying over or collecting it from space.
Well, Christopher, the deal here is this. This is the whole China thing started with the unholy alliance between Wall Street that just wants cheap labor, and they shipped our jobs there. So it started with that. And then with basically Democrats and certain Republicans that, just want the free trade, or they want the trade in the World Health Organization. They want access to the goods, and they think it's going to help them or help their communities or whatever. And so now it's gotten to the point basically where all we do is look the other way. I mean, could you imagine the U.S. having any of this surveillance in or around Beijing, in or around China, in or around the South China Sea? I mean, there's no way we could do any of this, but we just look the other way. We let them do whatever they want.
Yeah, I do think it's a problem, and I guess it's just really short-term thinking. People are trying to win the next election rather than think about national security over the long term, so they sacrifice long-term security for short-term gains. I think you see the same thing with debt spending. It's unfortunate that we seem to live in a 24-hour, 1-week planning cycle instead of a long-range one like we should.